good evening, Middle East, Asia, Australia, good afternoon, Europe, and good morning, America. We have panelists from across the globe, and we have the audience from 60 plus countries. We are looking forward to today's webinar and learning from these amazing stars on our panel. The topic on hand is seeding success in the metaverse. In my opinion, the center of gravity is shifting towards the metaverse. Metaverse will be the new internet. In fact, it's already breaking the internet, and I think you'll agree with me on that. Another prediction I want to make, virtual is the new real. And finally, I think community building will define the success of Meta NFT Web3 ventures. And this webinar is an exercise to fulfill that requirement. We are here to educate people. We are here to build a community. And I'm fortunate to have with me today my dear friend, Susan Furness, who's going to be taking the show forward. She's going to be moderating today's webinar. And let me very quickly introduce Susan to you. I mean, I haven't introduced you to myself, but a lot of you already know me because we've been doing a series of webinars. For those who are newbies, I'm Sharad Agarwal. I run a digital agency called Cybergear right here in Dubai. And I'm also the founder of onlywebinars.com. So I'm going to introduce Susan very quickly. She wears many hats. She's been working with us over like 20 plus years. She's a corporate communication specialist. She's curating conversations in the meta space. She's an edgewalker and also knows a lot about spiritual intelligence. So you can reach out to her through LinkedIn, and I'm sure she will love to connect with you. So I'm going to hand it over to Susan to introduce our panel and take this forward. Over to you, Susan.
Thank you so much, Sharad, and thank you everyone in the room. There's almost 100 of you now. Thank you so much. And then, of course, that's us here on screen. So actually, we are 100. So, yeah, Sharad, we have known each other a long time. You're absolutely right from that sort of journey from almost the cusp of Web 1 to Web 2, actually, in the 90s, you know, into this very, very exciting time we are now, which must be sort of one of the biggest emerging markets that any of us have ever experienced, I would say, and that's Web 3, the metaverse, and of course NFTs. So, you know, what is this all about? We want to clear up some grey area, as we do every time. This is our third webinar in the series this year to really get to grips with the grey area. And Sharad, you've given me and our panel quite a tall order today, but we're going to make it, aren't we, guys? That's to come up with at least 20 takeaways. And we're going to give you the job, Sharad, to help us record that on LinkedIn over the coming week so that we make sure we really do grab those takeaways. So let's get started on why we are the right people in the room to sort of clear up this, the grey area of the metaverse as we seed success. And so I'm just going to go around the room and introduce you to our panel here today. And then panel, as I get to you, Sharad, we are on gallery, aren't we? So everyone can see us as gallery. Great. So because we can see each other as gallery, I'm going to ask each of you to chip in for a bit and let us know all about you. So can I go first to you, Camille? Camille, tell us about you and what you're doing here. I mean, what I know is that you are straight out of a brilliant master's degree, which I'm very excited about, as you know, all about augmented reality and metaverse, and putting all of that learning straight into family business in the luxury goods area. So over to you, Camille.
Thank you very much, Susan. Hello, everyone. Looking forward to this webinar. On my side, so I'm co-founder of Camille Louise Jewelry family company, and also co-founder of GemXR and chief metaverse officer. Co-founder was Aline Dombricourt, my mother. So we are on the same journey, entering and helping luxury brands enter the metaverse through SaaS web-based services, NFT creation, virtual try-on, Unreal Engine virtual showrooms, And our goal is to help the brands into their digital strategies to enter the metaverse with blockchain strategies and how to do it, if they have to start with an NFT or not. And also the other side of the coin of the sustainability side of the trackability and the blockchain certification, and also shifting the business model of ordering before as a digital product to do the physical. So that's our mission. And as you well said, Susan, I finished a master's degree in marketing and management from Regent's University London. I did the Clinton Foundation Leadership Program to also promote cryptocurrency and blockchain for content creation and brands who want to really enter the space through digitalization. So that's what we're doing, and looking forward to the webinar.
Oh, thank you for being here. I mean, that's a real essence that you're adding to the room. And so I'm going to go over to the sort of other end of knowledge, if you like. So let's take you and some of our colleagues in the room as the new knowledge, the fresh knowledge. And then there's the likes of myself and Sharad and my very good friend, Kimberly King, who indeed have been around for quite a few decades and are bringing, we feel, the excitement of our ability to shift, the experiences of BC, before Corona, but way, way, way before Corona, into this very exciting time now. So bringing our strategic prowess and our impact innovation into the room. Kimberly, I hope that's a good way to sort of bring you, me and Sharad together in this community. Over to you, Kimberly.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Susan. Although I would modify that it is not many decades, but it is 2 decades of experience in watching the evolution of an idea called the metaverse, and being part of Web 1, 2, and now the emerging fast accelerating 3. I am the CEO of a company called Human Tech, and true to our name, I care about the intersection of these technologies and these innovations with human life, with business life, but what is the impact that all this is having? And how do we direct our innovative prowess, our strategic intention, etc., into creating a better world, a world that works better for business, that liberates creators, that levels the playing field, that is inclusive and ever evolving, and that we are active creators, co-creators, and participants. This is an exciting time to be alive. And I have witnessed us moving from the gear itself to being prohibitive and only for those very early adopters willing to do the learning curve, to user experiences rapidly improving. That is the key to mass adoption. And I see so many facets across industries coming together. I work in public-private partnerships and joint ventures, so I work across industries with folks that go deep into each of your verticals and industries that you'll be hearing. I'm about the collaboration and the cross-pollination that makes us all become a metaverse of metaverses that we are all working, playing, and growing together. What an exciting conversation. Thank you so much.
Oh, indeed it is, and a generative conversation as well, because just so that our audience know too, we're not very scripted today, we're really just going on an organic path here. We sort of have an idea where we're going because we want to give you some nuances and some nuggets around seeding success in the universe. And indeed, Nova, as you reminded me on a post the other day, we're also sort of looking at those extended P's of the marketing mix, aren't we? The 4 P's of the traditional marketing mix being product, price, promotion, and place, but we're sort of adding in presence. What do we look like? What's our brand presence? What's our energy as we come into these metaverses, as you quite rightly said, Kimberly? And indeed, the P for people. Really, how do we collaborate in community? How do we build our teams? How does this all work in a very inclusive environment? And indeed, how do we measure that last P for performance? Are there new ways of measurement? So I think Nova, I can see a little nod from you there. I mean, Nova, Lorraine, wow, you know, I'm going to go first with the bits that pull out for me, a poet and a storyteller. I mean, anyone that really smiths words, you know, a wordsmith really has our heart in the metaverse, because it's also important, isn't it, about how we tell those stories. But you've also taken another runway, and that's the fashion runway, and a really acclaimed and a celebrated fashion designer in the States. So how are you going to take that and your sort of publishing acumen, you know, into this space of well, the catwalk and the runway of the metaverse? Nova, hello.
Hello, and thank you for having me, and thank you to everyone who's attending today and joining us on this really incredible discussion. And so, yeah, I started my journey after pivoting from academia, getting my PhD in clinical psych, to fashion, studying at FIT in New York, and really haven't looked back. And that journey as a creative entrepreneur really inspired me to launch Rain Magazine, which has expanded into podcasting, as you mentioned, as the Pink Kangaroo Podcast Network, and now Raindrops, the NFT art house. So all that I do is really about inspiring, empowering, and educating, and bringing fashion, culture, and technology together. That's what I do with Rain. That's what I do with all that I do. If I can mesh helping others through my mediums of art that I love, then I try to do that. So most currently on my crypto journey is, you know, creating as a builder in the NFT space, which will extend into the metaverse space. And it's disrupting storytelling. We have seen a lot of art being brought to the market, which has moved our focus from just speculative investing with crypto and with tokens and coins, and now looking at the collector space with NFTs, and now communities, you know, building communities through NFTs. Well, what I saw was an opportunity to really bring storytelling to the forefront, and combine this wonderful technology of blockchain with books. And if I'm an avid reader and love reading stories, not just writing and telling stories, but imagine being at the forefront of Star Wars or Harry Potter or some of these other wonderful franchises, Marvel, and being introduced to Iron Man, being introduced to Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, being introduced to these characters through NFTs. So that's what I'm doing with a story that I'm writing. It's 7 years in development, and introducing this very impactful story about transformation, evolution, sustainability, financial and environmental and personal sustainability, as we observe a character going through life as an alien on Earth. And so really excited about that, and incorporating fashion. I think where we're going to see a lot of explosion in the space is bringing all these industries that don't typically work together, as Kimberly said, collaboration, and bringing all of us together to create some dynamic products and services. So bringing fashion together in the space of storytelling and NFTs, and seeing that evolve in the metaverse space.
Awesome, Nova, awesome. And in fact, it's a real fabulous segue into our one-time economist and corporate banker, Javier, who is now really looking at how he can get the very DNA of us into the metaverse, and working in, of course, in what he's calling the DeSci area, the decentralized science area. So Javier Florin, tell us all about you.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on here. I enjoy just now the panelists, great people. You guys also create a good panel to discuss really thoughtful topics here. So I hope everybody knows a little bit more about the ecosystem and the metaverse, and some words that they are weird for so many people. So thank you for that. In my case, I was in corporate banking a few years ago. I studied economics and then marketing in the Netherlands and also in Spain. And then I co-founded a scientific communication company specialized in storytelling for the life science industry. So we help pharma and biotech companies to explain their treatments, how the mode of action of a new drug works within the human body. And we help them also to explain really complex concepts to patients, so the patients really understand what is their treatments about, right? And we do that by different technologies. The core of the business is 3D animation, but we are also specialized since 10 years now. It's a decade, not like Kimberly 2 decades, but it's still 10 years now. We use technology like virtual reality, augmented reality, interactive content, websites, and holograms. So most of those technologies that we used 10 years ago are becoming more important now to tell new stories, right? So that's why, our projects are booming and we are getting faster than we thought into the metaverse. So we saw a really big opportunity to mix science, art, and people, and the metaverse make us able to transmit our knowledge and our stories into hundreds of thousands of people and new clients as well, right? So that's why we created an NFT collection. It was a project. Now it's a spin-off of my company. It's a whole new company. It's a spin-off. And what we are doing is mixing human DNA with NFTs. So what we do is customize NFTs with the human DNA of the users. So that's the very unique customization of an NFT, right? So we are aiming to geneticize avatars in the future metaverse, where everybody is working with their avatar in different virtual worlds, and they can have a very, very customized NFT with their genetic essence. So that's the main concept. Sometimes it sounds crazy, but we are doing our best. We have a scientific team to do it, and also a 3D artist team. So that's what we are doing now. And we are partnering with really great people to make it even bigger. So yeah, happy to be here and share our journey with the audience. Yeah.
Well, Javier, thank you. I mean, you know, a little bit of crazy doesn't do any harm to anyone, does it? Indeed, I don't think we get great stories, great poems, great designs, and great impact without somebody somewhere thinking we're a little bit crazy, right? So, you know, let's keep that sort of craziness crystallized in the way that you're doing it. It'd be very interesting to see where that's going. I saw even eyes on the screen thinking, really, human DNA in an NFT. Wow. I mean, you know, wow, oh, wow. What do you think about that, Sharad, before I go on to Ellie?
Yeah, I think Javier's project has a lot of legs, and it's a matter of time when he goes to market. And I look forward to working with him closely and spreading the word and building a community around his business. We've already had those conversations on the side, and Javier has featured in Meet the Metapreneur episode. So yeah, a lot of collaborations already have started happening even before this webinar. So it's all good. And I actually want to go to Camille because she has a great story to share. And another, what should I say? She is somebody with an amazing future. And I want to make that prediction today because I've had 2-3 sessions with Camille, and every time she talks, I get so inspired. So she has all the knowledge about the metaverse, about the NFTs, XR, VR, MR, you name it.
Yeah, I think your prediction's right. And of course, no better, Ellie, to come from someone that comes from a foundation of corporate law and indeed software as a service or different forms of IT and Web 2. So really, really super. And then integrated in all of that, you've got this deep affection and understanding of the essence of brand. So, and not only that, when it comes to building community, I know you're very much about inclusive community and fairness in community. So I share your excitement, Sharad. Ellie, tell us more about you.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for allowing me to talk with you today. Really grateful for that. And yeah, definitely. So, on the one hand, what I do, for a living, let's say, is what I've done for a while, working with, big brands on strategy. I was working on innovation strategy for huge brands before in a startup from Series C to unicorn in the field of innovation and intellectual property. And now I'm doing that in Web3. And for me, it's like, in Web3 or in this other world, like, who are you going to be? You have to lead with your values, you have to lead with your heart, and you need to have, a purpose with what you're doing. So I'm definitely helping brands, achieve that in Web3. And I also really practice what I preach, and I'm creating my own project with utilities in the metaverse. It's a fashion project that aims at, I don't like the term raising awareness about mental health, because for me, it's more like normalizing talking about mental health. Like, it shouldn't be such a huge deal to, talk about, oh, I'm ashamed of this and that, or, oh, I had, an anxiety attack the other day, or, you should be able to tell people what's going on inside of you, and it should be fun. And I can talk about that, and then 1 second later talk about something really funky, you know what I mean? But have that connection of people know how I'm doing. So I'm really bringing that together. And in that respect, I'm always looking for new metaverses to collaborate with, to bring utilities to my tokens, and definitely new best practices for my brand clients. So thank you so much for the discussion, and I'm really looking forward to the chat today. And I'm just going to plug my email here in the chat. I don't really answer to LinkedIn messages. There's just so many of them. I'm bad with that. But if anyone would like to get in touch with me, the best thing is to send me an email, let me know who you are, what you do, and what we could do together. And I will most likely answer a lot more on email. So thank you.
Oh, that's brilliant, Ellie. Thank you so much. I know there's a couple of people in the chat that, you've already piqued their interest. You too, Javier, there's a question or two for you in the chat, but, everyone can find us all on LinkedIn if you don't have our email addresses, and we'll all respond as quickly as we can. But let's get sort of stuck in then. So, we've all talked about our role in the metaverse and why it's really exciting us and why we're committed to this, from the space of, say, Sharad and I as holding community and hosting and holding these conversations so words and voices can be heard, right the way through to, the more tangible among you that are already producing tangible assets and minting and mining in the metaverse. So let's sort of narrow this down a bit, for all of our listeners here. What is this all about really and truly, and who can play? So I'll combine two things there. So, if I was to go back to you, Camille, and sort of say, so if you were to just summarize this from your recent mastery experience and about what is this all about and who can play? Over to you, Camille.
Thank you, Susan. I think I've read so many reports to create my thesis on how AR enhances the consumer experience within the luxury accessories industry. And there is no one definition of the metaverse, because we're all building with our individual projects or the corporate projects who are creating the pathways to what will be the metaverse. And that will also rely on the technologies. So what I love about the metaverse is that it's open standards, and it's about building a vision of a sustainable metaverse, about equity, about the creator economy. There's a reverse side of the rules where the creators now have the power to decide what we can build in these metaverses. So for me, the metaverse is really about co-creation, elevation, communication, and collaboration, where before in the Web2 world, we do have competitors, but in Web3, we see them as collaborators. And that's what Sharad says, saying the metaverse really is about the community. And we've been told when we work with brands also who want to enter the metaverse space or create an NFT drop, we're telling them at GemXR that they need to create their community. And that's not something that you can do in a day, unless you're an influencer or you're already, in the space. So the metaverse is really cross-chain, hopefully very soon interoperable. And on our side in the retail industry, seeing the brands really trying to enter the metaverse, or creators and designers building digital fashion, co-creating, I think that's what I take away from the metaverse.
Thank you so much. And what I'm hearing from there is that, anyone can play. And indeed, if you feel that you need community to create, this is your space. I mean, this is where we really, really can bring an end to, competition that just feels so ugly, and really come into collaboration and co-opetition, maybe. Is that what you're finding, Nova? What would you say it's all about, and who can play?
What's so exciting is everyone can play, right? From teens all the way up. And I see it as the new iteration of the internet to really simplify it, and we are creating an interactive way to socialize and do commerce through the internet. And when you think about what exists now, all those layers can be brought into the metaverse. And because this is so new and it's such a new paradigm, we need creatives, we need architects, we need the technologists, we need the storytellers, we need the copy editors, we need everyone, right? And that's what's so exciting. And we have the Maxis who have been on the tech side creating amazing technologies, but what we're seeing are the gaps in terms of the language barrier and the knowledge barrier as it relates to the metaverse. So although everyone can play, because we need all the builders, if you're looking at creating a city from scratch, and everyone that would be needed, from the plumber to the carpenter to the architect to the store owner, that's what we need in the metaverse. But at the same time, we need the educators, we need those that are still in Web 2, those that are in Web 2.5, that understand, are enthusiastic about Web 3, and can help onboard as many people as possible in a way that's easy and efficient. And so I feel everyone can play. I see it as the new paradigm. It is the next phase of the internet. It is how we're going to continue to entertain, engage with each other, and do commerce with each other. And I feel that right now what's imperative are those creatives that can put the user interfaces on top of the beautiful technology that we're creating, and then also the educators that can help bridge the gap with the language barrier right now that I think exists, as well as the technology barrier.
Can you just flesh out for me what you mean by language barrier?
So, a simple example, I was having a conversation the other day about my project with the NFTs and storytelling. And here's a founder who created an incredible company within the fashion space, an eco company. And he said, I don't mean to sound ignorant. I really love the project, but what's an NFT? And so, being in the space, we sort of take it for granted, non-fungible tokens and DAOs and, white papers and all these things, and those are just the basic terms, let alone breaking it down even further. When you're reading a white paper, a lot of the language that's being used is new as well. And so I think that just educating individuals, not just on the basic terms, but when we're talking about DAOs, we say initiators, we don't say founders, we don't say chief officer. So there's just a new language that's being created around Web3, and which the metaverse is a part of that ecosystem. And so if you don't even understand what the language is, how can you get in the house, to play with everyone else in the house. So I think that's a big issue that we need to address. And I'm super passionate about access as it relates to education, but then also financial access, because it takes money and resources to create these projects in the space as well.
Here. I'm so pleased I asked you to flesh that out. And indeed, just for everybody online today, if you go to our January the 25th webinar, which was Is Your Brand Future Sensing Web3, we talked a lot about the definitions there, but Sharad, you also perhaps could put a link in the chat for us, because you've started to create a glossary. We started to create a Meta Shapers glossary. Is that right, Sharad?
Yeah, I actually just posted it in the chat, so audience can find glossaries on NFTs, on all the meta terms. So all the gobbledygook is explained in layman terms. And I think it's important for all of us to be in a level playing field. So we have to know all that jargon. And actually, it's not so difficult when you start reading about it, because just 3 months back, for the first time, I heard about NFTs and kind of started to enter the metaverse. And it's been accelerated learning, and people are now reaching out to me to help them develop their brand strategy. So I always say, I'll get back to you soon. So it's it's learning in process, but yeah, it's amazing. It's very exciting. And in this webinar alone, I've got 12 points I've noted down already. So let's keep the show going. Susan, back to you.
Let's go. Yeah, thank you so much. Well, let's all say we resemble that remark. We're all in this together, as everyone's been saying on screen today. And Kimberly, I mean, you were really quite animated during the conversation there with Nova, etc. So over to you. What did you get from that? And who can play, and how are we playing, and what should we watch out for? Kimberly.
Well, this layer is part of the most important to me, because it does come back to what kind of world are we creating together. And it starts with everyone at the table, everyone in that universe of ours. And I think people get fixated on the how-to and the technology, and don't understand the powerful why-to and what we get to do together. So I was very excited as I hear Camille, Nova, and others articulate what I think is the real grail here, that of the new era that we are all a part of. As someone who has worked in collaboration and multi-stakeholder ventures for a lot of years across industries, I have always been bridging that, but I've always had to fight harder for every barrier in order to bring folks together. Part of what's exciting here that we're illuminating today is that the barriers are coming down. Don't be distracted by the jargon and the technology that you don't understand. It wasn't that long ago that things we consider commonplace and ubiquitous today were new. Acceleration happens really quickly now. Adoption happens really quickly. It's important to get in the pool. Put your toe in the water. Don't worry about understanding everything. As we shared in a previous conversation, Susan, I have long-time knowledge in parts of this evolution, and I'm a student and learner about others. And it can be overwhelming in a moment, but I know to pace myself, take a bite of it at a time, and begin to integrate what I'm learning. So I want to invite everyone listening, you're not too late. We're at the very, very beginning. There's an invitation for everyone. And as Nova put it, it's not just the coders or the technology gurus. It's the storytellers. It's the creative in every way. It's the builder of every kind. Understand that there is a place for you exactly as you are right now. Step in as you are right now and learn together. And this time, let's collaborate at the beginning and build a co-creative world.
Oh, that's really quite beautiful and quite touched me where it should touch, and that's right in the heart. And of course, you know, I think some of you have heard me say before that many are mooting that this is the heart age. And if we take that the heart age needs courage, and if we take that, I think Javier's Spanish, who speaks French? Camille, I think, that and Illy. So the word for heart in French is coeur, isn't it? Coeur, yeah. So C-O-U-E-R, whereas courage is C-O-U-R. So if we pretend that courage really is coeur in French, it's the heart age. So yeah, beautiful. It's for us all to be in there in a world that no longer wants competition, as we've just said, but really does want co-opetition and collaboration, and not give lip service to that. But Javier, I mean, how do we prepare product for this? I mean, you've got a real platform and found a springboard platform from really sort of already traversing the crypto space, blockchain, meta, and indeed NFT. And of course, you're doing it in a very quirky and very unusual and very, well, actually, I say a big stretch way with your DNA-verse. But just think in general for us, Javier, can you? I mean, how do we prepare, and what could we prepare to do? Over to you, Javier.
Yeah, well, I always remember that I think Nova said the language barrier, right? I think we don't have to prepare so much. The technology is going to be there to help somehow to embrace this new ecosystem, right? If, for example, if you want to talk in a virtual world with anybody from other countries, there are some solutions that they are real-time translators, right? So you just put your goggles on and talk in another in Spanish, English, whatever, right? Russian or whatever. So of course we have to really understand the ecosystem. For me, it's a completely new whole ecosystem based on the old internet and then, you know, the websites and the social media platforms, but with a more immersive technology, right? And what is key for me is the technology is giving back the control to users, right? So it's not the big companies managing the ecosystem, it's the community managing the ecosystem, right? So I think we shouldn't be worried, as Kimberly said, just do it, right? It's like you just need to start and enter any metaverse you like and start diving and walking around to see features, to see the environments, to click and play, do your avatar, and you're gonna end up in being a more experienced user, right? It takes time, but I mean, it's so easy just to start. You don't need to be an expert, right? And for sure, the good thing about this new ecosystem is there are thousands of people willing to help. It's like, it's crazy. It's like, okay, so many people eager to help you to go through the new path, right? And some experienced users, for example, are gathering their digital assets and putting them in the wall of a new virtual home or a virtual house. Maybe you don't have a virtual house the first 2 weeks you are in the metaverse, but you will do it. You will do it, right? So, for example, the NFTs, and I was laughing a little bit about the terms, right? Because yeah, we are like really used to talk with other people in the metaverse and in the Web3 industry, and we don't realize that we are using complex terms, right? So we have to translate when we are talking with newbies, right? So what I mean with that is you're gonna see experienced users using immersive spaces, and they already have a house there, but just try to learn from them, and you will use wearables, you will use NFTs as a digital asset, which allow you to consume different services and different products. So I think the key point here is the willingness to learn. It's just even if you have experience in Web 2, Web 1, if you're willing to learn, and you're gonna be a really fast learner. You're gonna be an experienced user in the metaverse in just a couple of months, right?
I love what you said there, Javier, that you said the willingness to be in, that you actually then, that's almost gives you the sort of the inner energy to really be open and listen and learn, and no doubt get that energy back from those like yourself that are sort of what should we call us? We don't want to call us the specialists in the metaverse, but those that have just been in a little more time. And that gives
Susan, sorry, there is not an expert now in Web3. Everybody is calling themselves an expert. It's not a 10 years technology. All of us are newbies in the space, and they all have to be willing to help, right?
Yeah, indeed. And thank you for stressing that and flipping around what I said. And I'm going to take that willingness again and take the polarity of willingness, which can be willfulness. And really, willfulness doesn't fit into the space, does it? And so I'm going to come to you, Ellie, to sort of take us into that energetic, particularly as I can even see on the screen today that we've got your Ellie at conspicuous.com there. Tell us about this, fighting shame inclusion in the metaverse from the off, Ellie.
Well, yeah, and I just want to touch upon something really beautiful that you're saying about like the heart and courage. I think we need to have the courage to show up as we are in the metaverse. And that's really something that I've been exploring, like talking about mental health, especially in France and Europe. When I talk about my project, I don't know how people are going to react. Like I say sexual health and they can be like, oh, you're kinky, or like you're like easy, or, you never know how people are going to react. And it's having that courage to be like, I want to bring this conversation, and whatever people are going to come to me for, I can handle it, because that's kind of who I am. That's my interest in the metaverse. And it also comes with, humility of don't really know what I'm doing that well at the moment. So, especially for people, I've been working before doing things and I was really good at them. And I took a lot of pride in being really good at what I do and being the best. And it was easy, and people would look up to me and I would make a lot of money, and all those things were like, okay. Now I get shame attacks sometimes. Like I go into a place and everyone's like, a lot of developers are talking and finance people. And I'm like, I sometimes have to step out, like, breathe and come back. And it's having that courage of being like, I am not in a zone where I'm comfortable. But at the same time, like having that openness to be open about it without the expectation of like other people to save me or carry me through. So yeah, for me, like what's really important is to fight shame. For me, at the core of anxiety, at the core of depression, at the core of addiction, at the core of every mental health issue that you can have is that idea of shame. We all have things we're ashamed of. Sometimes it's our bodies, sometimes it's some of our traits, sometimes it's some of the things we've said or done to people, or the ways we've acted or embarrassed ourselves. And that shame is like eating at us. And I think especially in the metaverse, a lot of people are like, oh, you're in the metaverse. Is it going to replace real life? And I'm like, of course not. It's never going to replace a hug someone can give you. You know what I mean? It's never going to replace an art exhibition, a live show, something. So I really want to bridge that gap. Do you love your body as much as you love your favorite NFT? Do you love yourself as much as you love your Bored Ape? You know what I mean? And bridging that gap between the virtual and the physical, and that shame and that courage and that love and those values, you know, through this kind of iconic balloon, where I want people, when they see my wearable in the metaverse, they're like, oh, whoever's wearing that is someone who thinks all shapes, sizes, and colors are beautiful, and who thinks that it's important to fight shame, and who's like brave enough to be able to, you know, talk about those topics of mental health. And it's like this community, this warmth. That's what I want to bring into the space. And anyone else, you know, who's getting into the metaverse, like, first, before figuring out what you're going to bring into the space, what's your contribution to it, you know, you need to learn about it. So yeah, get involved with the community, help a project for free. You know, the best way to get started is by doing something for someone that you believe in. And yeah, that's my take on that. Thank you so much, Susan, for asking.
Well, and thank you so much for being so, oh, what shall I say, consciously erudite in explaining it all. And it really does feel as though that came from a true, authentic space. And I just would like to give an applause as well, a mention to Jamie Brett, Sharad, you know, from our January the 25th webinar. You know, Jamie too is championing digital economic justice right from the beginning, you know, because of course, as we all are saying indirectly, this is our verse, our metaverse to create. And thank you also for stressing that, Javier, also. But I'm seeing that, you know, in true collaborative form, we've got another friend in the room. Sharad, would you like to introduce Michaela to us?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I'd like to recognize a few people who are in the audience who have some amazing stories to share with us. So first on is Michaela Lahat. She is the co-founder and CEO of Persona. So welcome, Michaela, to the show, and please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to.
Thank you, Sharad, for inviting me and for the introduction. I think it's quite interesting, everything that I've heard here, and even like the termination of CEO. I think, as Nova, you talked about before, we're using the new languages in that space and thinking. So we have DAO, but we have other forms as well. How do we redefine roles and ways of working in this new space? So this is just a thought I had listening to you all. I think one of the exciting things is, by listening to you, to understand how accepting the space is, enabling new people to join and learn and be a part of this journey. So a little bit about myself and how I guess came to this space. I come from a family business, but I've been in the art industry for the last years. And about 6 months ago, I started learning about Web3. And it became my new obsession. I fell in love with everything related to that, understanding the potential and the revolutionary, I guess, elements that are coming within it. So I put, let's say, my last practice aside and started this journey. And I asked my friend, my partner, Danielle, which is a fashion designer, to join me. And together we created a virtual fashion house called Persona. So together we kind of thought about, again, talking about this space, how can we contribute? What can we bring? How can we change? And we decided, it's not a coincidence, we called the brand Persona. It's not about one person, it's about a collective, about creators joining us, we can say even sort of a movement. So we also approach other people, other talented creators from the fashion industry to join us and think together how we can break the boundaries of the real world and kind of shape what's going to be in the metaverse. So I'm going to add up some of the stuff Ellie mentioned, bringing tolerance, creating a tolerant society and community, a place where anyone could wear what he wants and be whoever he wishes to. So we plan on doing so first of all, by opening the door for talented people. So even though we started with a foundation of, let's say, fashion designers who used to work in some of the best luxury fashion houses, we plan on bringing many more creators to our journey. And then by the designs we do and the community we build. So we started by making an NFT collection, one of a kind, and kind of put all of our effort now in building a community that shares the same values and vision that we do. So this is a little bit about where we're heading. And I think things are we're observing how new systems are developing. And another thing that is exciting to think about, how we work with other people, how we can bring people for some project and then they don't have to be a part, let's say, of the company, or new structures as well. So this is a little bit about myself and the journey. Thank you.
And that's wonderful, Michaela. I mean, just stay there. I'm going to change the format a little bit. And that does mean, Nova, I'm going to put you a bit on the spot. But can you ask or integrate any conversation with Michaela from your space and what you heard? Fire a question over to her or comment around what you heard. Nova, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're doing, Michaela. I'm a fashion designer. I started with haute couture. I entered the fashion design space without a network, deep pockets, things like that. So I have a very soft spot for other creators and designers that are starting up in the industry. And one of the issues I wanted to resolve with Raindrops Art House is to allow not only the transformation through art, as we heard of conversations around inclusivity, this is the heart age, all of that, being mindful and intentional as we build this new paradigm, but also to lower the barriers, as you said. And as a designer, it's very challenging with the rise of fast fashion to break into the space. And I see decentralization. One of the reasons I got excited and into the space was I wanted to bring blockchain to couture. I wanted to show and bring awareness to the artisans and the craftsmen and the legacies that are passed down from family member to family member, to the general public. And then to collateralize and tokenize these assets, these fine arts of fashion. And you can create a whole new economy, with NFTs, which is exciting. And so you had touched on the fact that there's these opportunities and what got you excited into sort of switching gears, and similar reasons to what got me excited, like, whoa, for the first time in a long time, and I've been doing this for decades, that creators can sustain themselves. And it's so important, Ellie touches on this with mental health. It's so important. It starts with us, right? If we're not well mentally or physically, it's hard for us to stay connected with those around us. And so if we can sustain ourselves with what we love, then we create that endless flow, that endless well that overflows to others. And to have these tools of Web3, of NFTs, of decentralization, of blockchain, of the metaverse, we can do what we love without compromising who we are. And so to fire a question off, as you said, you're collaborating with designers. Are you looking at, with your pieces, you're doing one of a kind, are you looking at bringing those pieces to life in the real world? And or are you using interoperability as it relates to creating your NFTs?
So first of all, thank you for sharing the information you just mentioned. It's exciting to hear other people in the field and what they're doing and about their own experience as well. Our first collection, we have, let's say, the commercial line and the couture line as well, which another topic that maybe is not for now. What is couture in the metaverse? I think it's also an interesting discussion we could have. With the one-of-a-kind collection, it's actually quite a good question you asked about, are we going to bring them to life as well? So we do see ourselves sort of the bridge between the real life and the metaverse. So we will have the option to redeem a physical t-shirt that is inspired by your NFTs in the first collection we plan to launch in a few months. So this is, let's say, for that question. And I don't know if it answered the second, but maybe if you can repeat that, I could answer.
Absolutely. Thank you for answering the first question. So we know that interoperability in the metaverse is something keen from a standpoint of building a sustainable foundation, project in the space. So with your NFTs, will they be interoperable in the metaverse as well as you move forward?
When you say interoperable, you mean utilize, like being able to use it? Yes. So yes, definitely, we're working on that. We're going to give a 3D file to the people who will get the NFTs. So this is one. So when the converters and the technology will develop, they'll be able to use it. And we are in discussions with multiple metaverses, like exploring the possibilities we can, let's say, utilize now, and not only when the converters will come and technology will develop. But yes, it is a part of our vision that you'll be able to wear the garment in real life and also have a visual representation in the metaverse.
Amazing.
This is
Thank
fabulous.
you.
Thank you both very much. Nova, thanks so much for shadowing me there. That was wonderful. Michaela, you mentioned that, you know, you said, hang on, I'm going to park what I was doing over there and I'm going to move in. Did I hear you say move into the metaverse? Did I hear you say 6 months ago? I just want to give our listeners a sense of your runway so far.
It is.
6 months ago. And is there no turning back? Did you make the right move?
I did. And let's say personally for me, knowledge, it is something that gives me so much passion, and being in a space that every day I learn something new and about, I don't know, people, philosophy, history, economic possibilities. So for me, yes, it opened a door for somewhere that I don't see myself turning.
Yeah, well, thank you. And we're so glad you opened the door, and we're so glad everybody on screen today opened the door. And for particularly you, Jose, hello, how are you? Sharad, do you want to introduce this wonderful man?
Absolutely. I want to recognize Antonio Meza, who's coming in from Paris. I got to know him a few months back, and he's collaborating with me on Meet the Metapreneur. So all those, graphic illustrations that you see, you can see the man behind those. And I want Antonio to tell the audience what got him excited about the metaverse and where he is in that journey. Over to you, Antonio.
Thank you, Sharad. Thank you, Susan, and hello to everybody. I'm very, very pleased and very happy to be here with you. I've been collaborating with Sharad for a few weeks now, as you know, illustrating the conversations of Meet the Metapreneur. Basically, I'm like you've been saying, I'm a total newbie to this, but I guess everybody else is in a way. So I don't feel bad about that. I'm a storyteller and I'm a cartoon artist. So I love telling visual stories. I work doing comic books for companies and animated videos. I'm really passionate about telling stories about entrepreneurs, because I do believe that entrepreneurs have the imagination and the energy to make a difference in the world and to find a way to do it. So I am very, very excited about the metaverse, because I think it's a new portal, like a new interface for human interaction that opens up possibilities. And that's why I got very excited when Sharad had this idea. Well, I'm doing these conversations, and why don't we illustrate them? I said, yes, let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can tell the story of the pioneers of the metaverse one panel at a time. And then little by little, we also create this collection that we can also put out there, as an NFT collection, and have the collection of panels that tell the story of all these people that are thinking about opening possibilities for offering new value to human society, right? So for me, I think this is a very interesting and very exciting opportunity. We're working currently on developing these visuals, these collections, and I'm totally curious about what is possible, because of course it's not only about being an owner of something, but what does that mean? It means that you put value into something, you become part of a community. So then what becomes possible when this community comes together? So that's one of the exciting questions for me in general about the metaverse, is what becomes possible when this community comes together. So thank you for offering me this space.
Antonio, no, well, thank you. And from the off, I was just like really, really drawn in by your creative prowess and the way you really captured the conversation of the metapreneurs. But there is a question for you from, on my screen, someone who's sitting above your head, and that's Camille. I mean, Camille, I saw you just put a question in the chat, but you know, you take it over from here. Have a chat with Antonio.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Susan. And Michaela, it was also fascinating to learn about your design process, and I totally also agree with it. And I think it applies to also animation and design, Jose Antonio, sorry. It's about the creator economy in the metaverse. And as we were mentioning in the discussion, the entry barriers are low. Anyone can start creating if they have the tools, or there's workshops to learn how to design, especially, and Michaela knows that it's Cross 3D, Maya, and Blender, and a lot of digital fashion houses are giving those tools for free and workshops so that everyone can start building. And I think it goes the same on our side for the design of jewelry. We start with a Rhino file or a sketch on paper. And I'd love to, I've seen the different meta entrepreneurs interviews, and I'd love to see the animations, because you're so talented to see them in 3D and do a partnership with 3D designer. And who knows, the next, I think it was with Michaela, the next workshop or interview, if it's in the metaverse and in nowhere, now here, we could have these animations and, this self-enhanced expression of ourselves, of our digital identities, let it be who we want to express and how we want to be represented. And that's what Ellie has been speaking about. It's the only limitations are really the ones of our imaginations. Of course, the technology powers what is capable of doing in the metaverse, and the photorealistic experiences and the HD quality is still working, and it's still a process. So of course, the big companies like Apple and so on, with the AR goggles that we saw in the chat, or the virtual try-on or the animation, the technology is going to help the creators to really build such a beautiful user experience, the end experience. So I would love to see your characters and your sketches animated. If you could do a collaboration with a 3D designer artist, or as a small movie, I think it would be really incredible, because then we're talking about interoperability of avatar collectibles, of collectibles, of, Elliot spoke about NFTs, who are now, we've seen Bored Ape Club also creating a metaverse now with an investment of 450 million. So there is a budget to it, but that's a huge vision. And I think that's more and more also collectors and the community, they want to see their NFTs or their creations come to life. And I think that's the next step that you could take if you want to really go into Web3, is have a 3D of your characters. And I think yesterday, Spaces announced a collaboration with Ready Player Me. In Spaces, you only have the top of your body, and now Ready Player Me brought the legs. So you'll have a full 360 human 3D avatar walking in the metaverse. So I think that it's really about bridging companies and creators together, and that's where you see the magic of what's possible in Web3 and in the metaverse.
Beautifully put. And before I let you come back on that, Antonio, but yes, it does deserve that, doesn't it? I mean, really wonderful. I'm going to go to one metapreneur that you've already brought to life, but not yet 3D, and that's Javier. And I want to know, Javier, how do you feel about being animated? Over to you.
I'm all in. I'm all in. It would be great. I think everybody it likes to be represented as a character. Like all of us wants to be the main character of a movie, right? Of our series or of our life, for example, right? So as Camille said, Bored Apes are creating the metaverse for them, but I guess there are gonna be thousands of metaverses, right? There are gonna be virtual worlds where everybody can be, the main character of their lives. Right. So if there are artists like Antonio, or there are so much talent in the 3D space, I'm lucky enough to have some of them in my team, and the possibilities are endless. The technology is great now, and if we mix the technology and the creativity of artists like Antonio, we can create a new whole world, right? Like really creative world. So, and with NFTs, you can hold or own part of your story, right? And you can share income for the future, or the possibilities are endless. Yeah, I'm all in. If you want to create a 3D avatar of me walking around into the generic metaverse, I'm more than happy to be there. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can collaborate and give you legs as well.
Yeah.
So Antonia, do you want to come in there? And then I'm going to come to you, Kimberly.
Thank you. There's so many to say that we could have a whole webinar about this topic, right? But I just wanted to say, well, I really appreciate what Javier just said. There's going to be a multiplicity of different interpretations of different metaverses. And then coming back to what Camille was saying, there is this platform where I can design how I want to appear in the world, right? So I can buy virtual jewelry and virtual fashion, have my avatar, and I can work on this identity for the metaverse if I want. So there's the part of modeling myself. And I also think there is also room for the role of the artist. Like in history, the artist has been also somebody that from his or her point of view makes an interpretation of how I see you, right? So there's how I see myself, how I want to appear in the world, but I'm also curious about how do you see me, because that also gives me presence, gives me recognition. So I was saying, I think the metaverse is going to be this interface for human interaction, and that means connection between who I want to be and who you want to be, and what becomes possible thanks to that. So I'm looking forward to nourishing that dialogue with everybody.
Thank you so much, Antonio. We're really looking forward to it too, and more of your work. Kimberly, I warned you, I'm coming over to you. I mean, you've heard a lot there. You know, we've had a lot going on. Do you want to just tell us what you've heard or what's landing for you now?
Well, so many layers for now and future conversations. First, I'll go back to Javier, the center of your story. We've heard of the hero's journey. Well, I think that the metaverse is giving us an opportunity to spread our wings as those heroes of our story, and that we should take that seriously, because here's our opportunity yet again to define and express ourselves. And we should not understate what a powerful privilege that is. And it's worth the journey to liberate ourselves in every way, in every part of expression, digital, physical, etc. I will say that as I stepped into the metaverse, to VR, to different early expressions, and watched the role of identity is a fascinating journey. I saw some people really want to mirror themselves. They wanted to, as close as possible, look like them, only animated. Others wanted to be very, very different and to play with identity. And some were fearing that, like, oh, I don't like myself, but I can like who I am in the metaverse. I think that the jury is long out on this experiment of self-expression, of identity and interaction, and actually playing with how I present myself, what I look like in the world, in this world, and how the world meets me. So I think there are so many layers in addition to commerce. This is an opportunity to entertain and monetize and create all at the same time, but understand there's a lot more rich layers happening in this evolution, in this expression, and they are all creating this new shared reality together.
Powerful, powerful stuff. Nova, do you have anything to add to that? I mean, that was something very, rich, wasn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, to add to that and address some of the questions that are in the chat, I believe some people want to know just where do I start? I'm interested. You got me. Barrier of entry is low. I recommend picking an interest. And if your interest is fashion, or if it's entertainment, or if it's sports, or if it's organizational structure, pick an interest and then go through that channel. So my journey started with, you know, fashion and blockchain. And that took me into advising DAOs now, and now creating NFTs. So wherever you start, that path is going to change and evolve as you get further and further in and meet more people. And one way to just bridge the connection between your interest and the next step is find someone that is doing something in the space right now and just support them. And you're going to learn just by doing. And so all of us here have multiple projects, because that's another thing you'll find in the metaverse. There's fractionalized time and multiple projects. So, you know, joining anyone here on stage, or anyone that's sharing in the chat, and I'm sure they know a multitude of projects that you can get involved in, but just volunteer, share your area of expertise. So I wanted to address that. And then also, I believe that Kimberly also mentioned how important it is for us to stay intentional as we build. And we've also seen some comments in the chat around wellness. We've heard comments about mental health and mindfulness. I believe Oliver here is here, and he represents that category as well. If we are not intentional as creators, as builders, we're only going to recreate the same issues we have now. And what is so exciting is we have an opportunity to create the world that we want in the metaverse, and that's going to spill into IRL in real life. And so I think one of the things I do want to, you know, share with everyone to take away is ask yourself why you want to get into this space, and what can you contribute from that perspective. You know, is it around inclusivity? Is it around mental health? Is it around, we talked about identity, you know, health, you know, how are you going to help solve some of the current problems over and above just creating a project in the space? So I just wanted to share that.
Fabulous. And you know, it was also positive and so useful and so nourishing. And I hope everyone on screen and in the room found so too. So I don't want to be a sort of, you know, go on the polarity of bringing all that light into the dark. But, you know, some of us have been in this space for a good few months now. And as we've all said, it really is only months, you know, even if it is 18 or something. You know, what are the pitfalls we should look for? Is there anything that's really shown up that's regular? And I'm going to come to Camille and Illy for this. So Camille, can you just give us a couple of pitfalls, and then turn it over to your colleague Illy, please.
Thank you, Susan. I think that you summarize it also really well, and it's learning by doing and choosing a topic or an interest, like Nova said, which is the same in Web 2, and you'll probably find it in Web 3, most probably, or if it's not there, create it, join Discords or DAOs. And I think on my journey in the Web 3 and the blockchain and metaverse is where to start and how to do it, or you get advice and finally it's not the right way. And, you know, we tried to find a way of how could we find a competitive advantage. We launched a jewelry brand in the middle of March 2020. So no shops, no ways of, you know, going to fairs, meeting people, the community. And then finally in the pitfall of having these barriers, we found a solution of let's do a digital jewelry and let's do an NFT of it. And let's afterwards do the physical version, because then we have less cost of production. So that's really more on the supply chain of it. But the pitfall would be of if we knew we had to create, for example, for the last 3 months, 6 months, the community, then we would have maybe sold better the NFTs or the collection, or done a collaboration maybe with an NFT artist or designer that was already in the space. So I think that was one of the pitfalls that we've experienced, and we started to create a physical bracelet with a digital artwork accessible with a QR code. And we didn't do it because we couldn't have the funds. And that's what Nova was saying, is that NFTs are creating, of course, financial independence or financial profits, but it might be just for one collection of an NFT drop. And it's really important, I think, to publish your ideas or mint them if you can. I saw in the chat that someone said, how can you, the barriers are low to enter the space, but they're quite high when you have to mint an NFT or create a virtual world or create digital assets. So it is expensive, and there are some ways of pre-minting without minting officially on the blockchain, so you don't have the crazy blockchain fees that I've seen done by others in the space. So that are for me, what's one of the pitfalls that I've seen. It's really about knowing about the community and also the whole financial part of going into blockchain and NFT space.
Well, really sound words there. I mean, the overriding summary I'm going to sort of take, it comes from Web 1, Web 2, and in Web 3, and that's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. But, you know, I mean, we're never really going to find that out, are we, until we, as we say, open that portal, as someone said, that new doorway, and give it a go. And I love it where you carry in what's really of interest to you. But if we take that a step further, maybe in the words of Simon Sinek, and say, you know, what's your just cause? What's really purposeful in you? Kimberly, what's your real intention? You know, and how can that intention have extraordinary impact? So thank you, Camille. So Ellie, can I come to you for some areas where we could trip up, perhaps?
Well, absolutely. You know, I'm in mental health, so of course, like the main thing we trip up on is ourselves. You know, the pressure that we put on ourselves and or self-centeredness. I'm a very self-centered person. Like, it's one of my character defects, and I know it, and I watch for it. And when I arrived in the spaces, like a lot of people, including myself, sometimes like, what can the space do for me? How can I enter this space? How can I, me? And it's like, maybe the conversation isn't about you in the space. Maybe it's about, look at the space, give your time. You know, if I could give myself more advice, would be, you know, like, go into a project and see, like, hey, can I work for free for you? Can I do something for you? And then I'm going to learn. So I did that with Genies. I saw that they were, you know, opening the warehouse where you could try the Genies app. And I signed up, and then I started to talk with the people there. And, you know, 6 months down the line now, you know, the CEO of Disney is joining them. They're blowing up. It's crazy. And I'm in this community, and I'm collaborating with a super talented guy who's making 3D wearables, and he's making them for me for little to nothing. And in exchange, I help him, you know, with mental health, and he inspires me to write, you know, articles about, you know, specific topics. So that's kind of how it evolves. I didn't arrive being like, how can I enter Web3? And then someone said, you know, you should join Genies or Alpha Girl Club. Like, that's a mental health PFP. They were going to mint. I bought one, and then they were doing not well at all in terms of price. And they were like looking for help of like mental health professionals, etc. And I was like, hey, I'll help you. I love you. And then the project blew up. And now I'm on the website of one of the biggest, you know, projects on Ethereum, because like, I started by giving, and then, you know, of course I have to make money. So I have my consulting business, I help brands, etc. But at the same time, I spend a lot of time volunteering. 50% of my time right now is spent talking, meeting people, volunteering, helping. So I think like the first pitfall is, don't go into the space greedy. Go into the space looking for what you can just work for free, who you can kind of like go under their wing and help their little project because you believe in it. You never know where you're going to end up. And then another pitfall, of course, you know, don't give out your seed phrase, don't answer to Discord DMs, don't answer to Telegram DMs. There's a lot of people out there, extremely intelligent, extremely sophisticated. They're after you, they're after your wallet, and they have like, they're going to talk to you on the phone. The lengths they will go to scam you are pretty scary. So, you know, just keep with what you trust. Always, even when I go almost on OpenSea, I first go to the official OpenSea Twitter page, and then I find the link, you know, just because even there's so many websites. So yeah, just be careful and remember that, it's self-sovereignty comes at a price. And I think, if my bank, like, oops, my bank, bad transaction, the bank will reimburse, the bank will like give you your password again. MetaMask is not going to give you a seed phrase again. If the transaction is lost, it's lost. If you send the funds to the wrong place, it's lost. If you gave out your seed phrase, if you clicked on the bad link, it's lost. So, learn what you got to learn and keep going.
Brilliant sound advice. And I don't know if one of my sort of associates is on today, but I mean, he indeed had his wallet emptied, his MetaMask wallet emptied just a few days ago. So, and actually watch out there on Twitter, as you said, because as soon as he mentioned it to say anybody can help at MetaMask, along came a lot of bot DMs saying like, we can help out, just click here. We know how to do it, mate, etc., etc. So sound advice, everything that you've said there was sound advice. I'm just summarizing that last one because I think we all need to be, maybe we should add another P, everybody, to the marketing mix, and that's the P of protect. So I'm going to do that right now. It's going to go on the end, the P of protect. By the way, we are going through the P's, even if it doesn't sound as though you are. And I can see Dan Jones in the room. And actually, Dan was nodding a lot when you were talking there, Illy. Sharad, who's this fabulous Dan Jones?
Dan Jones is the co-founder of Calyptus in UK, and he's a meta player. I'd like him to introduce himself and his business to the audience. And then, Susan, I want to make an announcement about our next event, and then we are ready to call it a day. Over to you, Dan.
Yes.
Thanks, Sharad, and thanks for inviting me. And Susan, you're completely right. I was nodding a lot because I've been scammed myself. Especially back in 2017, my IOTA wallet got hacked. At that point in time, I wasn't aware fully of phishing problems like that. So I've seen it firsthand, and it's very funny this topic's come along. I mean, especially when there's so many scams and hacks happening all the time, you kind of understand that this whole ecosystem has to be built on values. Who are the good actors? Who are the bad actors? How can you produce better actors in this ecosystem that are building for the better? It's so interesting to have all these different backgrounds from yourselves in fashion, biotech, mental health, because it's going to take this whole force of good to making sure this is a better place. And what we're trying to give back to the industry, myself, my co-founder Callum, is we want to build a technical training platform to solve this huge Web3 talent shortage. It's something you greatly touched upon, Nova, early on about how can we support these architects and builders moving from Web 2 into Web 3. There's 21 million software developers globally. Joseph Lubin, the co-founder of Ethereum, thinks there's 700,000 blockchain developers. Okay, so how are we building this bridge? How are we building this trusted bridge to get from one place to another? And it's our mission now that we're going to build this 8-week full-time expert-led training program to transform these web developers into Web2 developers in a way that they can trust. There's so much education out there which is so quickly redundant within literally 2-3 months. Honestly, it's hard to keep up. So the whole idea is we build this program in which it's 8 weeks long, and as soon as that happens, we break it and we completely remold it. So every 8 weeks, you're always learning the thing that's up to date. So we have hiring partners. We're going to build a network of hiring partners with employees in the ecosystem where they tell us these are the skills we need, and we reverse engineer it every 8 weeks to make sure that the skills that they learned in these technical training programs we're providing are completely commercially relevant. And the idea is that we place them at forward-thinking startups, foundations, and corporates afterwards, helping people that have this willingness, as you mentioned, Javier, who want to actually move into the ecosystem, and we provide the course for that. I think the one thing just wanted to ask is, if there's anyone who is a web developer who's really intrigued to move into the industry, our first cohort is completely free. It's 8 weeks, it's full-time, it's expert-led, and if you have 2 years plus of software development experience, then we're really happy to have you. I think my co-founder is going to put our website in the chat there if you're interested. And secondly, if there's anyone who's an instructor in Solidity development and loves to teach, would love to talk to you for our first cohort starting in Q4.
That is absolutely awesome, Dan. Thank you so much. So did you get that, everyone? The first inaugural program, 8 weeks program, free, 2 years plus software experience. Come on, Callum Crombie, I think, has put it in the link there. Thanks, Callum. Thanks, Dan. Absolutely awesome. And thank you for your words of wisdom, although they come from, you know, perhaps a negative experience, Dan, at the beginning. And I just loved some of your wordsmithing, didn't you, Nova? You know, who are the good and bad actors, you know, a whole force of good. What did you think, Nova?
I love what he's doing, Dan. There you do have like these groups that are looking for each other and don't know how to find each other. And, you know, I hear about it all the time on the tech side and on the creative side. And one of the things that I like to do, if I see a problem, I want to try to fix it. So with some of the individuals here, they may already know this, that we're working on a conference. And if anyone's interested in helping, contributing, adding value, where we can connect creatives and technologists together in a room to collaborate and to co-create, I think it's so important. I think it's going to move the industry further, faster, and we're going to have more mindful and intentional individuals with good intentions coming together to avoid situations like what you went through, Dan, and Susan, what your friend went through, which is heartbreaking because a lot of times when it's gone, it's gone. And, you know, going back to education, I believe Ellie had shared, you also have to educate yourself on how to protect yourself in this space, just like anything. You know, when you go to a new place on a trip, you kind of know what to do and not to do so you can protect yourself. This is the same thing when you're coming into Web3. And then part of that is, you know, aligning with individuals that you trust and asking questions. And they may be, you know, what you think is the silliest questions, and we all had them. You know, we all had them at one point. And so ask, research, learn, connect, collaborate. I love the emphasis on looking and giving. And this is something that's so unique. I've crossed a lot of industries and worked in a lot of communities, and this is one of the few where it's all about co-creation and collaboration and supporting each other with the mindset of together we rise, together we grow, together we build. And it's fascinating and it's addictive. And so once you get in, you're not going to want to get out because it's more about what you're creating. It's the experiences you're developing, the memories, but then also the people that you are around, and to be able to create with individuals that you admire and respect on projects that you believe in is super powerful. So I love the fact that, Dan, that you're representing the technologists and increasing the education on that side, because we can't build these great metaverse cities without the builders, the initial builders. But then we also need the creative directors and the visionaries that can help with the issue with access. And so those that understand from the human behavioral side and UX side, you know, the user experience, how can we lower this barrier of entry in engaging with the metaverse, with engaging with wallets and crypto? And so we think it's super simple. And yes, there are going to be more interfaces that are coming down the pike where you don't have to use a wallet. You could just use your credit card. We're going to start seeing a lot more dashboards and technologies to onboard people more easily. But I feel that if you learn how to do these things, you can help others and you have more control over your direction and path in this Web3 space.
Well said again, very rich, lots that you pulled out there, Nova, but here, we need the P for people, lots of talent. And Dan, just a quickie, how many are on each cohort, do you hope?
So in Q4, so about November, will be 20 to 30 people. So not very many. We want to make sure that we hit our target of placing 90% of the individuals within 3 months. I think the market leading in Web2 development boot camps is 80%. So we've got a high bar, but at the same time there's such a huge demand for good actors and good developers in this space that we back ourselves with this ambition.
Well done, thank you so much. Now, Sharad, I'm going to come to you to close in a minute, but Kimberly, do you just have a quick closing for us all?
Well, yes, and first, thank you all so much. What a rich forum today, and what a wonderful job Sharad and Susan, you are doing in bringing this community together in that spirit of collaboration and learning and going together. I think that Nova made a great point about the responsibility of freedom. We're describing the promise of creative freedom. We also need to understand the price and the responsibility that comes with it. We've heard both ends of that spectrum today. We've heard that you can be and create anything you want, but you also need to be intentional about that if you want it to be a world you want in the end. So some really great contrasts that are all true. Thank you so much for the conversation.
That's a brilliant springboard from which to bounce, Kimberly, the responsibility of freedom and be intentional. Absolutely. And that was very rich coming through your replay to down there, Nova. Oh, excuse me, that shows we're coming to the end. My voice is going. So Sharad, thank you for having us, but I think you've got news about when we can get together again. Yeah.
Thank you, Susan, for moderating this panel. Thank you, panelists, for all your contributions. Thank you to the lovely audience as well. On a housekeeping note, the next event is on 29th April, save the date. It's going to be held in the Metaverse. I repeat, it's not going to be a Zoom webinar. It's going to be held in the Metaverse. The Metaverse is called Nowhere. You can register by going to onlywebinars.com. There will be a masterclass on crypto by Sharon Noller, and our very own Michaela Lahat, who is here on screen, will be hosting an NFT auction with a Metaverse fashion gallery. So a lot is coming up. I look forward to seeing all of you again in that. And a big thank you to all my panelists. I love all of you for your contributions. Let's stay connected, and we've got a good thing going. Thank you.
We have indeed. Let's all come off mute and say a good meta goodbye to everyone on screen.
Yes.
And in the room.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thanks, everyone.
participation.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank
Until
you.
next time.
God
Bye.
bless. Bye.
Bye-bye.